Right, and welcome back to Transfer Review. This is actually Transfer Window Review. Why are you here?
Because I'm going to present you with everything that all of the top six and Brighton and Newcastle have done. And I want you to tell me who's had the best window, can United challenge, because we do your season predictions, we don't even know whose team people have got yet.
You do, yeah, you're right. It's mad, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I kind of see where the Premier League was coming from when last season. Remember the chaos last season?
Yeah.
Right, all transfers done before the start of the window.
Great idea.
Oh no, it was the season before, was it?
Yeah, well, at some point I remember it happening.
Yeah, and then they went, actually, that's a lot of old bar side, let's not do that again.
But it makes sense, because otherwise you previewing teams when you don't even know what the team is. So we're going to go through the teams, United included, and you're going to tell me who's going to be good, who's going to be shit, and who's had a good window and who's had a bad window. It's that simple. So we'll do it in alphabetical order, unless you can think of a better way to do it. Arsenal, Inns, Declan Rice, Havertz, Timber, Raya on loan. A total spend of around 210.
Another 200 million, Mikel.
I know. And almost 200 million of that, or 170 million of that plus, is on midfielders, Havertz and Rice. Obviously an area where they were weak. First of all, let's start with Declan Rice. What do you make of that signing? Will he be a success? Did they overspend? Just give me a thought.
Yes, they overspent.
Yeah.
I think he's a good player though, and he definitely had something to them, but they overspent probably by 35%. That might just be the pure English tax.
Yeah.
He'll never justify that amount, in my opinion. But yeah, he's a good player. If you're not asked about the cost, I mean, the fact that you couldn't move. If he was a Manchester United player, you're not allowed to even mention his name without mentioning he's 105 million.
Yeah.
Is it right that Liverpool didn't manage to sign anyone for over 100? Did they? They tried.
They tried.
But if Liverpool had succeeded, we'd have been the only team in the top five without £100 million signing.
We're the only team in the top five who've never made a bid over 100 million for someone. I'd say that much. Had a bid accepted for 100 million plus.
There you go.
There you go. So Rice, good player, too expensive, but I suppose if they win some trophies, it won't really matter, will it? If it's a good signing, it's a good
Probably
signing.
Not, yeah. But yeah, I think the money's mental.
Yeah.
He was definitely not worth that, but it is what it is. Havertz,
65 mil.
How Chelsea flipped him for that sort of money and Mount for that sort of money, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think they needed him. I think they've really tried to shoehorn him into the team. And I don't think he's made them better.
You think Arsenal didn't need him, you mean?
No.
Oh, right, I thought you meant Chelsea. How did they get that much money for him? Because he's literally like, I wouldn't say a flop at Chelsea, but he's certainly not been like great success.
How much did they buy him for? It was
a similar fee. It was about, I think, high 50s. But in that time, he's been there 3 or 4 years or whatever it is, and been pretty average.
Not much.
No, he obviously got the goal in the Champions League final, which is great, but that's, a single goal doesn't make a success or a fail of a career. I just think, I can't believe they got a profit on him. It's mad to me, that. Anyway, you're in Timber.
Best player they signed.
Best player they've signed, and he's out for the season.
High five.
Which I do feel a bit bad for him, to be fair, first game, but there's no point in factoring that into whether they've had a good window, because he ain't playing. And then Raya on loan from Brentford.
That, I think, could really upset the apple cart. I think goalkeepers really need to know, I'm number one, and that's that. I don't think Arteta's explanation, Arteta's press conferences, by the way, what has he been sniffing? Because every press conference he's had this year looks like he's losing the plot. Yeah. Every single one of them. From we had 43 different formations, we had 60-something defensive structures. No, you didn't. Stop trying to overcomplicate this. Yeah. Just because you might have been able to make 60-something different shapes doesn't mean that you planned that. That's just a consequence of where players move around on a pitch. It doesn't make it a formation. Yeah. That just means that's where players moved on the pitch, you fucking widge. So no, I think that and I have 2 number ones. Well, you don't, do you? Clearly.
No.
You have a 1 and a 2.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. You can't play 2 goalkeepers at once. No. So one of them is number 1. Yeah. And if you're just rotating indiscriminately, then what's the point in even having them both? They have to be exactly as good as each other. That's impossible, isn't it?
So I think the second you see a clanger from Ramsdale, because every keeper has them.
Yeah.
He could completely crumble.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, they're going to bring Raya in, and they could derail that entire match. That could mean he gets out of the game. And then I just don't see why you would do that.
It's a thing that I've never seen any manager ever do.
Successfully, at least.
Yeah, so like, give me a top team who has 2 number ones. It doesn't happen. And it has sort of, maybe there's like one example, but it never happens. So it's like, he's definitely trying to reinvent something there. Or he's explaining to Raya why he lied to him about the chances of playing this season. It's one or the other. It's either, you know, you're doing something for the first time that's never worked before, or you shouldn't really have got a keeper that good into being number 2. I don't get it. But overall, around 210 million.
Someone ain't going to be happy.
Yeah, depending on who you believe, 210 to 230, depending on the fees that you believe. Arsenal's window, how would you rate that out of 10?
Arsenal was in a weird spot pre-window where you don't necessarily have a million very obvious holes. Like they're quite a complete unit. Like they got a bit of depth and a bit of strength and some quality everywhere, but not quite enough to challenge City. It reminds me of Spurs in 2018, I think it might have been, where you go, they're pretty good everywhere. There's not like an obvious, like when you look at United last season, you need a fucking striker. Yeah. Like when you go, without spending 200 million to bring this guy in, like get me a Howson, get me a Jude Bellingham, like without doing that, how are we actually improving this here? So I think they've probably overspent in a big way. They've definitely improved with Timber, but 4 out of 10.
Bloody hell, 4 out of 10. I like that, because the reviews in transfer review are notoriously strict, and that's going to...
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it probably should have been a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's move on to Brighton then. Now, this is
let's be real. Like, what have they done? You've upgraded Xhaka.
Yeah, you've upgraded Xhaka for Rice.
You've probably got a slightly better right back.
Yeah, but he's not available.
But now he's injured.
Yeah. And Havertz isn't as good as Odegaard, and I don't really know.
And you're trying to shoehorn him in and shoehorn you. Like, how can you give it even more than a 5? You can't give it no.
Okay, let's move on to Brighton then, which is a bizarre team to review because even though they act like a small club, but they win like a big club. Like, look at their transfer. Their total purchases this summer add up to 54 million quid.
Less than a Mason.
They got double that for Caicedo. So they are the absolute net spend kings. And normally you would think, well, they're probably going to, teams that do that typically finish low to mid-table, but they're surviving based on this sort of financial model. They do all this and challenge for top 4.
Do you know what I think it's time to do, Joe?
What?
I'm going to advocate kidnapping and torture.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure that is legal in any country in the world.
But and it's not something I've done for a good few years.
Yeah.
But I reckon it's now time to kidnap and interrogate Brighton's recruitment staff.
Yeah.
Because what is going on?
I don't know.
And looking at who they've bought, you go, look, who have you recruited?
Yeah.
I know fucking half of them.
Yeah. Bart Verbruggen, I'd heard of him, but only because he was linked with United. João Pedro, I've heard of. I mean, obviously, Mill.
How did they get Fatty on loan? I thought he was the new fucking Messi.
Yeah, he was, but then he got injured and he hasn't been quite as good since, apparently.
Not quite been Messi.
No. But then they got these players like Noel Atom, Jacob Slater from Preston, like Igor Julio from Fiorentina, and like they paid bits of money, and Carlos Baleba from Lille, like 23 million. But that's like the equivalent of 10 years ago. That's a 3-4 million quid player, isn't it? Like, these are small gems. And again, eventually, I personally think that their luck will run out on this model.
They brought 9 players in for 54 million.
Yeah, because Leicester tried to do this and they won a league with it. Obviously, I'm not saying they won't be more successful than they are now.
Yeah,
but eventually
lose your key players.
You take a misstep here or there. Dortmund did it as well. Like, sometimes it doesn't quite work and then you're 15th and then who knows. But once again, they've started the season brilliantly. They've beaten Newcastle. They've beaten Villa. They lost Newcastle, didn't they? They've beaten Villa. They're beating teams. They're doing very well. No, they beat Newcastle. Sorry, Newcastle beat Villa. Brighton beat Newcastle. They've sold Caicedo for 115 million. Sold McAllister from, again, anywhere between 35 million and 50 million, depending on what you want to believe. And Sanchez to Chelsea for 25 million as well. I don't even know how you're going to rank this, but talk to me about what you think of that and Brighton generally.
I think you got to give them like a... If you're a Brighton fan, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'm saying
we got worse this window.
Yeah.
We brought loads of players in, great. Losing the midfield, problematic.
Yeah, Caicedo and McAllister going is tricky.
I say you get 1 point for making loads of money in your window. You get 2 points for bringing in more than you let go. But that's it.
Yeah.
So you're on 3 points. 3 out of 10. You lost too much quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm fully happy to review this at the end of the window and go, fucking hell, like Julio, whatever fucking called, was a bit good, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Better than Casado, actually.
And the fact that they've got a really strong system and a very good manager could paper over these cracks even for a full season. But that's not to say their window itself, like you said, has probably made it worse. Fatty, I guess, could have made it better.
Yeah, that's an unknown quantity at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, look, Dortmund managed to succeed. It's definitely part of Dortmund's business model. Like, one a year, big signing, gets to go. That keeps the whole club running.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're competing in the Bundesliga, where they're probably going to be one of the top 5 teams, regardless of how much. That's a lot harder to do in England.
Yeah.
When you're up against the likes of Liverpool, Newcastle, City, United, the money Chelsea are throwing around, the money Arsenal are throwing around, which everyone pretends doesn't happen. Yeah, like, to get into the top 6 or 7 in England, you're talking about being one of the top 10 teams in the world potentially.
Yeah.
So that's hard work, that is.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think that I'm fully hoping there's more diamonds in the rough, because it's a fucking great story if they can keep it running. It probably isn't, though.
No, eventually I think that they might come unstuck. But if I was a Brighton fan, the one thing I would think is, and just as worth mentioning, that all of these totals are from Sky Sports, so that's who we'll go with. But the one thing I think, if I was a Brighton fan, I think, 1 year, could we not just go for it? Could we not just say, actually, this year we're not selling anyone. We're going to spend 50, 60 million, 100 million, whatever, and we're going to try and win an FA Cup, a League Cup, a Europa League. We'll see what we can do in the Premier League. We've seen, like, because at some point you think it's amazing what they've done, and to jump from a Championship team to being a top half team consistently is fantastic, and it's really hard. But you think,
Wembley
this might be our only chance for another 70 years to really go for something here, because they don't win much. But I guess they're doing well, and while they're doing well, fair play to them. So what are you giving them out of 10 then, overall, that window?
3.
Crikey. On to Chelsea, and this is just madness, right?
I don't know.
Axel Disasi 38, Nicholas Jackson 30, Christopher Nkunku 52, Kendrick Paez 17.2, Robert Sanchez 25, Moises Caicedo 115, Ugachukwu 23.5, Lavia 58, Washington 17, Petrovic 14, Cole Palmer 45. Total ins for Chelsea this summer, £433 million. And then, they're whole outs, some of them
plus agent
boring,
fees.
but they're noteworthy outs, obviously. Again, talk about losing a midfield. Havertz, Kovacic and Mount, all gone for a cumulative roughly 150 million. Just another gigantic window for Chelsea. And I mean, this is about your opinion, but when you look at those sort of 12 or whatever players that we've listed there for Chelsea, how many of them do you look at and go, wow, what a player?
2.
Being?
Maybe Nkunku, maybe Lavia, definitely Caicedo.
Yeah.
Outside of that, a lot of risk.
Yeah, a hell of a lot of risk.
Are they banking on getting a transfer ban?
I think their plan is, obviously we've seen the amortisation thing, everyone knows about that, paying it off yearly, but everyone does that anyway, so it's not like they invented that. The thing they invented was the 7-year contracts, which are now banned. None of these players are on 7-year contracts, and if they are, their fees can't be amortised over that full length. I think the thing they're banking
and by the way, Premier League does have FFPs, not just Europe, because people are going, well, they're not in Europe, it doesn't matter. No, the Premier League still has that as well.
Yeah, and I think the thing they are banking on is let's use Nicholas Jackson, 30 million quid. He could come in, be bang average for 2 seasons, and they'll probably still get 28 million quid for him.
Yeah, but are they going to make a profit on Cole Palmer?
They might not make a profit on him, but they'll probably make a profit on Jordi Petrovic. They'll probably make a profit on David Washington, just because it's 14, 50 million. If they can get 20 million for both of them, that's profit. That's more players that they can buy. They're doing this just absolute cycle of so many players, something's got to stick. But it's bizarre. It's
bizarre because they got the whole world should have gone, don't buy from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Watch what happens.
Yeah.
And we was like, well, we could do with the Mount though, and City was like, we can do man on Kovacic. Like, how they got any money for those players? Everyone should have been like, oh, you want 65? I've got 2.
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah.
And then just wait it out, because they couldn't have done that they've just done, which they clearly wanted to do. And because they obviously can only register X number of players. Isn't there players in their team that aren't registered, by the way? Still.
Is there?
I think so.
Fucking hell. They've just got too many. What position does this put your manager in? I know they've started okay, but like they still haven't got a proper goal scorer. I know they've got Jackson in there and some players who could come
Nkunku's out for a while, isn't he?
But Nkunku's out for a while, and I just. Well, I mean, it's give me your review of that. What do you make of that? Is it a mess?
I don't know
is
how.
It wise? What is it?
I don't know. I think this is one that you can't. I've got to give it a 5 out of 10 down the middle.
Neutral.
You brought shitloads in. You for shitloads of money. There's some gems in there.
Yeah.
But like, it's a bit of a lucky dip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you've really lucky dipped the fuck out of it here. Yes, Caicedo is excellent, but you paid excellent money for him.
Yeah.
Like you expect excellence.
Yeah.
Like you can't be like, hey. Caicedo was good, can he?
Yeah.
He's a British record fee. Like,
I know.
He's fucking meant to be.
He better be good.
Yeah.
It's like they've gone, right, so the odds of winning the lottery, of getting all 6 numbers, 8 million to 1. So we've bought 8 million lottery tickets. Like, statistically, we're going to win it. And you're like, yeah, but you're just going to break even if you do.
Yeah.
It's like they've just gone, we'll just play the odds, buy everyone in Europe, and someone's got to be world class.
What they've done is they simulated 500 games of Football Manager, and every one of these wonder kids who eventually made it to top 10 Ballon d'Or, they signed.
Yeah, amazing. So 5 out of 10 because it's just impossible to rank. It's basically unlike any transfer model I've ever seen before. What they've been doing under Top.
It's mad entertaining, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exciting.
I'm just trying to get. I just want just make me a manager for a bit, either in Saudi or at Chelsea, and that'll do me.
Yeah,
I need to do a couple of weeks and get sacked.
So 5 out of 10 for them. The highest rank so far as well, which is mad because it's the least usual set of circumstances. Let's move on to Liverpool then. Slightly more traditional. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Endo, all midfielders. Literally all central midfielders, 150 million, and outs again. I suppose Firmino's not technically a midfielder, but he kind of doubles as one. Henderson, Firmino, all gone there, all gone to Saudi. They've just gone click reset on the midfield, haven't they? Refresh.
Yeah, I see. McAllister's a hell of a player.
Yeah,
and I think he will be a good signing for Liverpool. Gravenberch, hell of a player. I think he could be a good signing. I think he would have been more of a certainty to work at United, not necessarily because of Ten Hag, just because I think the way he plays, unless Liverpool are changing the way they play. Because this is when they bought Thiago. I go, fucking hell, Thiago's a hell of a player. But he doesn't suit the way Liverpool have been successful, right? Yeah. So that might be like, okay, well, they're going to change the way they play. Okay, if they change the way they play, then I got to observe their opinion. They're also trying Trent in this mad little fucking number 6 kind of role as well. So it's like they're undergoing a little bit of a refresh. We haven't really seen Klopp do this. Klopp came with his Dortmund blueprint and went, this is what works. Watch me do it again. He did it. He won something once, never retained anything, and then we're seeing this now, and when I can't tell you what it is because he's still building it. He's got some good players in there, and he had some good players already in the squad as well. I thought Salah was going to go. Yeah.
What, just because they could
just
use
because
that money?
So much fucking
year?
money, Joe. Yeah. And if I was in charge at Liverpool and that offer came down the pipe, I'd have took it.
But do you think they're thinking we can win something big this season and we need Salah to do it?
Well, if they are, they're delusional because they're not going to win fuck all.
Really?
Yeah.
What about, you talked about McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, their biggest signing, probably other than Endo, the least reputation. He obviously is come flying through at Leipzig, but what do you make of him and what do you make of what you've seen so far?
I think jury's out.
Yeah.
Could go either way, I think, with him at the moment. Obviously, everyone saw his dive. And in traditional Liverpool fashion, it got given. And there wasn't a week's worth of TalkSport content about it, weirdly. Don't know why that was. I think they've lost a lot of experience. But they also, when they did win the league, they did it without a lot of league-winning experience. So I don't necessarily know if they need that. I think it's a very important season for them because McAllister and Gravenberch could be the basis of a new midfield for them.
Yeah.
Or if it doesn't work, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board again. Obviously, I hope that's what happens. But it'd be very interesting to see what happens with Klopp because centre-half wise, they relied on Van Dijk for so long, but last 18 months or so, I am not seeing Van Dijk in the team there. Or not as good as he was. So, and then obviously you've got to cover up for Trent's deficiencies defensively because they're not actually putting him in the 6. They're still picking him as a right back and moving him forward there. It's big season. I think theirs is a 5 out of 10 because you got some decent money for some players that perhaps weren't going to play or feature or was a bit more towards the end of the road. You've managed to move them and get them pretty big wages off the books successfully, and you brought in some genuine, can't be fucked with talent. So I think 5 out of 10. 5
out of 10. Let's move on to Man City then. And they've gone back to a more traditional City window. Last year they went, no, we'll just get Haaland and that'll suit us. They've gone with that, we buy everyone around 50 to 60 million thing again, that has done them pretty well so far.
Well, that's what they declare.
Yeah, so that's what they declare. So the official fees, according to Sky, is Núñez for 53, Doku for 55, Kovacic for 30, and Gvardiol for 77.6, totaling £216 million. Then Mahrez, Laporte, and Cancelo have all left the club. Big names that have won a lot of things for them. Obviously, everyone has, but they've played big roles in a lot of the trophies in recent seasons. Thoughts on those? Because other than Kovacic, all of them are younger players on the rise, aren't they?
Yeah, I think Gvardiol's the jewel in that. I think he's come with a dual kind of price tag, but I think he's a genuine jewel in there. Again, I see Pep fucking with his system, which he does do. I think he's evolving his system. He's decided that he wants a bit more of a physical Manchester City, which is quite a terrifying prospect.
Yeah.
The one thing that you could always sort of guarantee with City is if you can keep compact and disciplined and hold them off, you might get a bit of a chance at a set play or on the counter against them, and that's diminishing It's like he learnt about second balls when he came here, and then he was learning about set pieces since he's been here, and it's kind of like you're at a pretty final form of what Manchester City could do, and they're the best team in the world at the moment. They just went and spent 200 million on the best team in the world.
Yeah.
Tossed Mahrez aside like a fucking used tissue. Chopped Cancelo when he was considered the best fullback in the world for just zero consequences. And Laporte, I mean, I don't know why they chose to let Laporte go, in all honesty.
I think he was disappointed with how much he was playing. But again, the end of the season before last, he was spoken about as one of the best centre-backs in the league. Then he barely plays for a year and just goes. If you think in the last 2 seasons, they've let Sterling and Mahrez go, both of which are a guaranteed 10 goals, 10 assists a season, sometimes 20 goals, 10 assists a season, sometimes 30 goals, 10 assists. Huge output in terms of goals and assists, just gone, and no one is really thinking they're going to struggle to score goals now. It is mad the cycle that they're in, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're set up to succeed. They've got a very good manager. Whether he's the greatest ever, I don't think you can say that when he's not done it without the backing of 3 of the biggest clubs, or certainly the 3 of the best sort of supported clubs financially that he's been at. Could he win something with Aberdeen?
Yeah.
Could he done what Jose did at Porto? And suppose himself, he's never going to have to. Okay, well, could he do it though?
Yeah.
I don't know if he could do it. I think bringing in Gvardiol is just sort of sewing up someone for the future before he goes somewhere else, because he's guaranteed to go somewhere else. I think Doku's good. Núñez again. It's a little bit of a strange one, that. That's more of an old school United kind of move, like spot a good player in the Premier League and just take him.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, that. Didn't see that one coming. But yeah, they've done better than us.
Yeah.
And I think ours is 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Not bad. Best so far. Let's go to United then. Manchester United. Mount, Amrabat, Onana, Evans, Højlund, Bayindir and Reguilon. Quite a lot of players again there. And again, depending on whose fees you believe and what you want to add in and add-ons, Sky have got it as at 183.5 million. And then in terms of noteworthy outs, I guess the most noteworthy is De Gea and Fred, I would say, in terms of players who actually play a lot and aren't here anymore. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as last season with those guys added in.
Yeah, there's a lot of youth went.
Yeah, that's true.
There was a lot of youth went. Disappointingly, a lot of youth went. I think they obviously wanted Maguire to go and he didn't.
Yeah.
The likes Brandon Williams and Mengi and people like that I guess they was never going to be first choice players in the squad, so okay. But I think the ones with a bit of a value that you didn't maybe move on, that you probably wanted, I think Ten Hag probably wanted to. He's never going to say this, but I think he probably wanted Maguire gone.
Yeah.
I get the impression he might have wanted the low gone. Okay. The rumours and stuff, I think those two could have been gone. McTominay, add to that. Marshall, I think, a tap in.
Rumours about Sancho as well, weren't there?
There is rumours about Sancho, yeah. So I think we didn't quite shift as much as we wanted to, and I think Maguire could be a problem sticking around. Then you look at what we brought in.
Yeah.
Why do we bring Evans in?
I guess. Well, in my head, he's the sort of Phil Jones, Eric Bailly sort of replacement of like
what that doesn't fucking play.
Yeah, I think that's what he was meant to be. I think he was meant to be the centre back who never plays unless you're 3-0 up at home against Wimbledon in the Carabao Cup.
That's what your youth players are for.
Well, I agree with you, but technically, Steve, you're forgetting he is a youth player. So
no, I mean your actual youth players, not
he
former
is an academy player, Steve. No, I get you. I think he was there for experience. I think he was there as a bloke that seems like a nice, likeable, intelligent man who could get on with people and who could offer some
I fucking
cover.
love Johnny Evans.
Yeah.
I think he's great. But should he be playing for Manchester United in 2023? No, I don't think he should.
No. But it was out of necessity, wasn't it?
I thought it was going to be like a Tom Huddleston signing.
Me too. That's what I mean. That's what I think.
So what's his job? Is to play in the under-21s and coach them on the pitch. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
What do you mean he's coming on at the Emirates?
Yeah, that didn't work out well, did it? So Mount and Amrabat. United again.
Not happy with the Mount signing. I know people are going to be like, he's been shit. I don't think he's quite been shit. I don't think you've seen the best of him. I think that would be the fair thing to say. And I don't think judging him after 2 games is valid.
No.
I think he'll be fine. I think he's a good signing, good player, and has improved the squad. Yeah. I think Amrabat, it's loan that's happening in it as a permanent deal, I think.
Yeah.
So very excited about what he can bring. Højlund, I think we massively overpaid for, but again, excited for him. Onana, probably our best signing.
Yeah.
Probably our most transformative signing. By the end of the season, I think we're all going to be going, oh my fucking God, what a player.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, Bayern, I'm annoyed at that one.
Why?
Well, we had a goalkeeper. We sold him for about that much.
Yeah.
And we knew he was one of the best in the world. Now, unless he pushed and was like, look, I'm not going to be third choice or second choice or whatever the fuck it is. I want to go and play football. And we went, okay, we'll have to sell you then. If it wasn't that, why the fuck did we let him go to bring someone else in?
You're talking about Henderson or Kovar here?
Oh, Kovar, I'm not talking about Henderson.
I thought not.
That didn't make a lot of sense to me at all.
No, I agree with that. Because he just had that brilliant season, winning the league in Serbia, wasn't it? It was Czech Republic, pardon me. Winning the league there, and then we sell him and bring someone else in who's about the same age, about the same experience,
maybe
about
not
the
as
same
good.
talent. For about the same money. It's like this strange situation.
It's such a sideways, what was the point in that kind of move? And what he doesn't have is that little tick in the box which classes him as homegrown.
Yeah. Reguilon, a move out of necessity rather than
choice. No, I'm not really happy with that. I think he's a good player, and hopefully he proves his worth to us. Clearly we want to fuck him off in January, looking at the way that we didn't go for Cucurella, But again, this is where Alvaro Fernandez gets. Why are we having a youth team if we're not going to give him an opportunity? Why we scour Europe to bring in talent like Hannibal, like Alvaro Fernandez, and all of these sorts of players. If they're not good enough, okay, fine. But like what I've seen on the pitch didn't disappoint at all on pre-season. So he said he was only going to bring players on pre-season that he thought had genuine potential to feature. He featured. He looked good featuring. Arguably looked better than Luke Shaw, who had a real bad pre-season.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to sign someone on loan because Luke Shaw's injured for a few weeks.
Yeah.
If I'm an agent that's working with a player that's at United, can I have a fucking word, please? Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't. Is that a Ten Hag decision? Is that a board decision? It doesn't really make sense for anyone to make that decision. So
I suppose you would say if you're looking at youth players, Garnacho and Mainu seem to be the two that he likes. Obviously, he likes Garnacho. Played him a lot last season, start of this season. Mainu was the one that was getting the nod you're in the starting 11 team in pre-season. Then obviously he gets that injury. Those would be his offerings for. Look, I'm playing youth players. Is that not enough?
I don't think so. No, I think the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah,
you've got injuries. We had an injury on pre-season. We didn't have a striker. you play players out of position rather than playing a striker there to see what he can do. You know, and people might go, okay, well, Charlie McNeil's now gone. I can't remember where he's gone off the top of my head actually now. He was never good enough. But what does that mean? David Beckham went on loan to Preston. Yeah. Like, you've got to give these kids a chance to see what they're about. If you've given them a chance and it don't work, hands up. Okay, well, they had a chance and they didn't take it. That's on them. Yeah. But when they've not had a chance, or when they have had a chance and they've played fucking well, like Fernandez did, like, yeah, you know what I mean?
It'd be good to see him a bit more, wouldn't it? So, in terms of the major signings there, then, I think Mount, Amrabat, Højlund in particular, all three of them, and Onana, come into either the first team or certainly first team squad, one of the first subs.
The first 11 is 15 players.
Yeah.
As like backwards as that sounds.
Yeah.
You need a good 15 players to have 11.
They all come into that, don't they?
Yeah.
Do you think that's improved us?
Yes. And that's something that we've needed. Hence why I said I think City have had a better window. United haven't had a bad window, but it could definitely have been better. So I think it's got to be a 5 for United.
5 for United. And finally then, let's Newcastle. Barnes, Tonali, Livramento. Actually, no, we've got the Spurs after this as well. 126 million. St. Maximin's gone. I mean, what do you make of that?
Some good signings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they probably overpaid for Barnes a little bit, but again, buying from another Premier League club, you get your ass handed to you a little bit, don't you? I think Tonali's a good signing at a good price.
Yeah.
I think you'll see a lot of him, I think, this year. Allowing St. Maximin to go, I thought it was a bit of a strange one, actually, because I thought he had the X factor that you might have needed in the things like the Champions League, and I could see him being a real problem in the Champions League for him. Surprising that not just that he went, but he went for so little.
Yeah.
Newcastle, in a little bit like Arsenal and the Spurs team from a while ago, is that they're quite a solid team. Where again you kind of go, there's not an obvious.
Yeah.
You need this to make them better. They're kind of like.
Everyone's like a 6 out of 10 for them, or 7 out of 10. There's not like 9s and 5s like United have got.
Yeah, or
it's like
3s.
Yeah, 9s and 3s. It's everyone's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, so that's what Spurs are. That's what Arsenal are. I think sometimes it's almost a shit position to be in, because you kind of go, I'm gonna have to pick someone here to come and be fucking like genuinely amazing, and be transformative into this team, and that's probably 100 million plus. Kind of money. That's such a big gamble for every club to sort of make, but that's the sort of position that they're in. So it's 4 out of 10, I think.
4 out of 10. And Spurs then finally, Kulusevski, we're almost not going to count that because he's been playing for him for fucking 18 months or whatever it is, 6 months. So
how's that happened, by the way?
I don't know. Loan or something? He obviously, he's been on loan, but 25 million for him.
Sounds like creative accounting.
Madison, 40 million. Vicario, Porro, Van der Ven and Johnson as well, 47.5 million last minute deal from Forest there. Around 250 million for their overall ins, and then obviously the noteworthy out there, Harry Kane, 100 million. Haven't even really tried to replace him, have they? They've just kind of like, we'll just do things a slightly different way now. They've not gone big on a striker.
Kane wasn't an out-and-out 9. So Kane was like a 9.5. He did a lot of his work in the 10 sort of role, and then he got in the box at the other end and then sort of free kicks and penalties and stuff. They've replaced his creativity and maybe even improved on it with Mount. With Madison, sorry. They've obviously not replaced the goal scoring, which means the likes of Son and that are going to have to start chipping in with a lot more. Brennan Johnson's a really interesting signing for him. Be interesting to see if he can take the step up from being someone that plays on a counter a little bit more to maybe being a lot more in possession, as Postecoglou loves a bit of the old possession. They've got a lot of decent players, but they're almost getting to the point of being a bit 7 out of 10ish. And what's the X factor in that team? That's have they got a 9 in there? They just sort of sold the 9.
Yeah, I guess
in every sense of the word.
In certain seasons, Son can be the 9, but he can also have a 5 out of, like last season. I know his numbers weren't that bad, but he didn't have that thing about him, did he? Like he did the year before.
Van der Ven's interesting because he is quick enough to allow them to play on the halfway. Yeah. I think they've had a pretty good window as well. I said 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. No big ratings. You don't think anyone's had a wow? What a year? What a window?
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, they've done pretty well, haven't they? So, looking at all of that.
In Miami.
Yeah, they've done pretty well. Looking at all of that then, who do you expect? Do you think anyone's going to be a surprise where you go, Jesus, they've done well? Like, you know, whatever, not a Leicester obviously, but like how Arsenal got second last year, United have got seconds in the past. Do you see anyone surprising you there now?
I thought Villa might do, but maybe not. I'm sure by the end of the window you'll be like, oh shit, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Maybe West Ham's.
Yeah, they've done pretty well, haven't they? They've actually sold one big boy and bought 3 good boys.
That's what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
So it's just a case of that. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, right, great. That's going to be all from us. That is the transfer review, the transfer window review reviewed. This has been Stretford Paddock. Steve's reaching. What are you reaching for there?
My phone. I dropped
He's reaching for his phone. He dropped it on the floor. I thought it was going to be some sort of final transfer that you were going to whip out of nowhere and surprise me with. Thank you for watching. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in a bit.